You can't have left if you don't also have right. You can't have up without having down. You can't have in without out, because nothing is out without having in to compare it to. Nothing is left without having right to compare it to. We can go on and on and on. So why is that important? Because if everything in the universe has an opposite and it exists at the same time, if there's a problem, what else has to be present?
A solution, or the
solution.
Opposite.
Solution has to be present.
Welcome to the podcast, Chris. Thanks for being on Brazen and Bold.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. Chris and I had a chance to meet recently at Premier Orlando, which is a huge hair show that happens annually. Chris is not necessarily in that space, but I think what he had to speak on and his background was really exciting to me as a salon owner, and just knowing what he does working with coaches and consultants. And I don't think that your work, Chris, is that far off base from what a lot of leaders and a lot of entrepreneurs need to hear. So I want to just kick it off by getting to know a little bit about, maybe tell me something that would kind of surprise me to know about you after knowing your bio or working with you. Give me a little something.
Oh, wow. This is interesting. A couple of things. Number one, I learned how to solo fly an airplane before I had a driver's license.
Okay, that does shock me. Also, I'm horrified. Your mommy let you get in an airplane when you were that little?
Yes, I was 17 years old when I flew a Cherokee 140 by myself for the first time, and I had never driven a car at that time. But I knew how to take off and land an airplane. I know that's a really strange thing, but that's very true. And also, my first entrepreneurial venture was as a professional street performer. I was a professional juggler.
Okay, so juggling. I was like breakdancing, pan.
No, I was a juggler, and you know what it was? Is I was really bored as a child, and I was looking for, my upbringing wasn't, let's just say it wasn't Brady Bunch. There was a lot of toxicity in the house. I grew up in a drug house. I won't get too deep into it, but I needed something that would get me some really positive attention, because I wasn't getting that in the home. And it was interesting. It was one of my mom's friends. He came to the house and he juggled, and I was really, really fascinated by it. And back then there was a TV station called Nickelodeon, and I started watching juggling videos on Nickelodeon, or I saw this guy on there and he was teaching. And it took me a year and a half, and I developed what was the best 3-ball routine in the whole entire state of New York, and kind of got known for it. And then did a little bit of street performing and birthday parties and that kind of stuff. And that was where my entrepreneurial journey began, was when I think I was 14 when that was going on. So pretty young.
Okay. Well done, Chris Kenny. That totally surprised me. I would have never guessed.
Hey, you asked for it.
I like it. I asked for it and I got it. And that kind of leads me into something that I've learned about and learned from you just in a few of our brief conversations. And if we ask for something, we get it. Let's talk a little bit about the energy behind how you help people break through some of their mindset blocks, and what really keeps us as individuals, forget about in business, but that's also applicable, but in life in general, from getting the things that are really available to us or that we want.
Yeah, I think foundationally, I think one of the most important things that I learned was law of polarity. And I'm just going to share what law of polarity is. Law of polarity says everything in the universe has an opposite, and it exists at the same time. Everything in the universe has an opposite, and it exists at the same time. You can't have left if you don't also have right. You can't have up without having down. You can't have in without out, because nothing is out without having in to compare it to. Nothing is left without having right to compare it to. We can go on and on and on. So why is that important? Because if everything in the universe has an opposite and it exists at the same time, if there's a problem, what else has to be present?
A solution, or the
solution.
Opposite.
Solution has to be present. So every problem in the universe brings with it the solution. So instead of operating from, geez, I hope there's a solution, I hope I can figure this out, operating from an absolute knowing that there is a solution. That's a different way of being. Showing up, I know the solution is here. I know it is. It has to be. The law says it has to be here. That changes your behavior. It changes how you approach problems. At least it has for me. And because I'm approaching from a knowing that there's a solution, I tend to find solutions.
When did you, and thanks for sharing that a little bit about polarity for those who haven't done any kind of study on it or even heard of it. When did you first get exposed to this idea? By what means? And how have you learned to really embrace it or dive deeper into this concept? Because like hearing it, I feel that it makes sense to me. How did you learn about it? How did you get deeper into it?
Yeah, I learned about it through mentorship, following people like Bob Proctor, following people like David Nagel, people that are, they're studying laws of the universe and teaching based on laws of the universe. And I just remember that one really, really grabbed onto me. And, living it just takes consciousness, and it's interesting. I mean, funny story. It's like literally like I remember laying in bed at a hotel, and I like the room to be pitch black when I go to sleep. All right. So there was I don't know, the smoke detector, the red light was on, and it was like blinding me as I was trying to
light into your eyeball.
Yes, I'm like, holy crap, what am I? So I immediately, and this is just how I'm conditioned, I'm going, there has to be a solution for how I can get that red light to disappear. There has to be. Now, yes, I mean, the obvious thing would have been get up there, take the thing apart, blah, blah, blah. Instead, what I did is I simply went into the bathroom, and I got my ex-girlfriend at the time, her makeup scissors, or her little, I don't know, for eyebrows or something, little scissors. I took a pair of, this is going to be weird, but anyway, I took a pair of my boxers, and I took the makeup scissors and pinned the boxers like right up on the wall, like over the thing. You know what I mean? And I got it covered. So the bottom line is it was covered. There was a solution. It's there. And I know it's ridiculous and you're chuckling, but it's like, that's how I think. Every time something's presented to me, I go, the solution has to be here. The solution has to be here. If we're trying to set like a revenue number, a record for the most monthly revenue we've ever done, my brain doesn't go, geez, I hope we can hit the number. I wonder if we can hit the number. My brain goes, I know we can hit the number. The way has to be present. What is it?
Yes.
And that, again, it shifts my approach. Think about numbers. Think about your goals. If you're a salon owner, think about your monthly goals. Think about it. But don't think about it from, hey, is there a solution? Think of it from a knowing that there is. And then the next thing in terms of embodying it is what ends up happening when you know there's a solution is you start to try things, right? And when you're trying things, certain things are going to be complete home runs. They're going to go excellent, and certain things are not. And it's at that time where you have to exercise win or learn mentality. Win or learn mentality. If it's a win, you move to gratitude for the win. You celebrate the win. If it's not a win and it ends up being a learning experience, well, you've got to grab onto the lesson, get super conscious of what the lesson was, and then harvest the lesson. Take that learning, use it, shift, and go on and do the next thing. The thing that gets people all messed up is they start trying things, and then if something doesn't work, they move into beating themselves up. I'm not good enough. Look, I'm never going to figure this out. You can go down that whole train.
Defeat language rabbit hole, or blaming something else, which is not really a position.
Yeah, not taking responsibility. So it's like knowing there's a solution, and then knowing when you're trying things, sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to learn. And the faster you can harvest those lessons and move to gratitude for those lessons, the faster the business is going to be able to move.
I'm really glad you touched on gratitude on both of those. Win and be grateful for the wins, and then, look at what happened, how it worked out, and be grateful for it and integrate it. And then in the lessons, the same exact formula applies. Look at the lessons, recap it, harvest it for whatever there is to learn, and be grateful all the same. And I think that can be hard.
It's difficult. And the other thing is make sure you celebrate wins. And I there's so often I see this, and I see it in my clients. They'll get a huge win and they just kind of want to graze over it. Oh yeah, I got it. Woohoo. Hey. And then they're moving on to the next thing, But think about it. When something doesn't go well, how long do you spin on it? You'll spin on it for days. Most people will just spin on the negative stuff,
Wait,
but then when something positive happens, they don't celebrate it. So you're constantly kind of running around with a bit of an empty tank. If you're not celebrating your wins and you're not using wins to fill your tank and create conscious celebration, right? And then every time something doesn't go well, you go down this pit of despair. That's where you are. You're in the pit of despair most times. And it's because you're not celebrating. And so I just think it's super, super, super important to celebrate wins.
No, thank you. And when you talk about bias, and that's something that I personally, when you're like, oh yeah, people, they'll spin or ruminate on their failings or what didn't go the way they wanted to for days. And I'm like, oh, is it only supposed to be a few days? Is that what the kids are doing now? It's just
How long do you sit on those, Heather? I just think it's easy to get into a funk if we're not super, super, super conscious of it.
And I think, like you talked about, bringing the unconscious conscious gives us opportunity to address it, to heal it, to do something with it, versus just being on, like, it's a background program that's running, so to speak. Like it's something that's just humming in the background. And I think about like confirmation bias, or if we're looking at any kind of, we're walking around with a negative bias that's running so strong. If we're focusing, like you said, have I recently been shown some really tremendous opportunities and had a lot of wins personally with my life or my business? Yes. Do you know how many people I talk to about them? Very few. I don't want to seem haughty or overly confident. I'll text my mom and dad. I'll share with them. I might tell my children because, we talk about our wins and our opportunities. We do that at dinner. But no, I don't spend days ruminating on how amazing it was and replaying how awesome it was. I spend a very cursory amount of time on it, because if I'm looking to get to the top of Mount Everest, I'm not going to turn around and be like, oh, look, I came up 10,000 feet. I'm like, I've got 10,000 feet to go. And that's what my mindset's done. And I think in a way that can be a huge detriment for us. And that's really good to think about. Is there any kind of actionable or more simple ways that you can see to help people make a shift? Like ways that you talk to people that you consult? How do you suggest people make that shift into the way?
One of the mentors I had, his name was Dan Sullivan, and he talks, and he wrote a book, and I think there's a book, but I don't want to quote the book in terms of the title, but he writes about this concept: gap versus gain mentality. Gap versus gain mentality. Gap mentality basically is you're constantly focused on what it is that you have yet to accomplish. All right. So say your goal is $2 million for business, and you've hit $1 million, and you're constantly like obsessed with, hitting that second million, hit the second million. I haven't hit it yet. I haven't hit it yet. Darn it. I haven't hit it yet. Why haven't I hit it yet? Blah, 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 blah. So the problem with being in the gap is that there's always another gap, because what happens when you hit the 2 million is now you want 3 million, or you'll set the next one. And now you're in that gap. You don't want to be beating yourself up for constantly being in a gap. Now, gain mentality basically means celebrate who you're becoming along the way. Celebrate the small wins. Celebrate the tiny micro wins that come along the way. And that's what we want to be focused on. Like, hey, if say you're setting a goal of having your first 100K month, right? And you missed the goal and you hit 75. But prior, your biggest month was 50. Celebrate the shit out of 75. You know what I mean? Like, celebrate that. So it's focus on the gains, focus on the small wins, and use that as a tool to keep your mindset in a positive manner. Now, look, I don't want to sit here and say, go out and constantly 24/7 be feeling like everything's, bumbly and perfect, because that's not the world that we live in. If I need to be upset about something, or I want to sulk about something, because once in a while, don't you just, hey, you know what? Right now, I just want to fucking be mad about this. Pardon my French. I just want to be upset about it. And you give yourself that. But I'll literally, if I know I need to like rage about something, be mad about something, sulk about something, I'll literally block a spot on my day and say, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. 4:00 today, I'm going to hop in my car and I'm going to spend 30 minutes and I'm going to listen to sappy music on the radio, and I'm going to feel all the emotion that I need to feel about this. And I make it a very deliberate action so that I'm not constantly feeling this pull that I need to sulk or I need to feel bad about this. Set a time in your day and go and sulk about it. So from 3 to 3:30, allow yourself to be that way. Give that to yourself. Do it, feel it, allow it to move through. But then at 3:30, now move into gratitude.
Your shit together. At 3:30, you're done crying. Turn off Alanis Morissette.
Yes.
Go.
Yes. But literally just be deliberate. I'm just saying be totally deliberate about it, because it's important. These things, the feelings, they need to be felt.
We talked about Zen a little bit. Being Zen does not mean being peaceful, as part of our conversation before we recorded. So what you're actually talking about, Zen is about being in the present moment with acceptance, more or less. So give yourself space to feel it and accept that you're feeling it. I like that. And I think that's really handy. Now, I have an assistant. I know you have assistants, and we run our lives with the support of others in a team. My assistant gives me calendar reminders. Does yours say, like, full reminder, Chris, you've got this coming up? Do you get those reminders?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, she keeps my calendar. So, yes, I get those all the time.
DM, like, or like a little chime. It's like, hey, reminder, Chris, it's 3:30 on your calendar to go rage in your car. On your calendar.
She's never reminded me to go rage in my car, but
is it literally on your calendar when you need to have that moment?
I block time if I need it.
Okay, but you don't name
block time. Do I name it? I mean, I would just write the word rage rage or feel, you know what I mean? Because I don't think people realize how toxic it is not to feel. Yeah. You know what I mean? And one of the things that I've learned is, if you look at everything as in terms of expansion and limitation, right? Expansion, feeling great, feeling fantastic. Limitation, feeling constricted, feeling scarce, blah, 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 blah. What I have found in my experience is you'll feel expansion at whatever same level you allow yourself to feel constriction. So if you allow yourself to have moments where you feel that feeling of constriction, scarcity, self-doubt, you feel it fully, you feel it at a level 10, that opens up the possibility for you to feel expansion at a level 10.
Ergo polarity.
Total polarity. Yes.
So
yes.
Polarity.
So embrace it.
Oh, it sounds so nice and clean cut. And I like this. I love how you're putting it. And I'm just going to be like, Irene, remind me to feel really shitty, and then remind me to go kick some serious ass 30 minutes later. And
it's like, and don't judge yourself for it. That's the thing, Heather. It's like, feel what you need to feel, get angry, but don't judge yourself for it. Because that's the next thing. Because, I spent many years of my life having a lot of judgment on my own anger. Mm-hmm. Like, I was the guy who'd always keep it together. All right. And I don't want to venture too far off topic, but when you're constantly, let me just make this an I statement. When I'm constantly trapped in nice guy and I'm being nice guy, what I've learned is, especially my relationships, that my partners they'll trust me less. And the reason that they'll trust me less is because I'm sitting in nice guy. And if I'm always sitting in nice guy, they're going, what is he hiding?
Yeah.
What is he hiding? There has to be, like, doesn't this guy get mad? Like, what's he suppressing? And you're not going to get trust from that. So when I allow myself to feel fully, my anger, that doesn't mean I'm toxic with it. I don't hurt things or people with my anger. I don't damage my property, but I allow myself, right? That creates a deeper level of trust inside of my relationship. And I find that I trust myself more and I love myself more because I'm allowing all of me to come to the table rather than, certain parts. Oh, people, they wouldn't love me if they learned this about me. It's not true. My partner loves it when I rage. She loves it when I get pissed off. She actually thinks it's sexy. And I'm not saying everybody will, but I'm saying that's true for her. But so anyway, I feel like I'm going off topic just a little bit, but I just think in terms of self-acceptance, right? Allowing ourselves to feel the full scope of what it is that we need to feel and do it without judgment. That's one of the pathways to true self-love. That's my opinion. And then when you love yourself, your performance goes up, period.
Yeah. Now, what I think is really about what you spotlight, and you've got to follow the line of thought through in order for it to be productive, or for someone listening to be able to say, right, what does that have to do with making more money and going for a high ticket, and asking what I'm worth? Well, it has everything to do with it, actually, because we can go with top level, top of the iceberg checklists that I can go through the mechanics of all day, every day, because I know how to perform. Anybody who's been in front of the public or been on a stage knows how to show up a certain way, no matter how they're feeling. It's what I do every day of my life. It's what most humans are walking around doing. And if we just stay there, we're pretending, and people read that that's hollow. You're not magnetizing what's actually real. You talk about polarity, which is a concept I'm only recently aware of in probably the last few years. And I've been doing more of a deep dive into it. But if this is a new concept to somebody, if you don't allow for all that to be there as a foundation, people aren't going to believe you when you're showing up asking for a lot. People aren't, and we can talk about business. People aren't going to believe you that you're really worth it, because all of you is not showing up to the table. And when you talk about that too, if you're really brilliant with something, or if you're, insanely talented in a certain area of your life, but you're suppressing a ton of other parts about you, you're not really bringing your full timbre of sound to the symphony. You're like a little, Casio electric piano plunking out a sound versus like a full baby grand in Carnegie Hall. And I think that's what's going to draw people in to say, what's that sound? I can't get enough of it. Right. So I think as far as like our energy goes, what you're talking about, setting you up for loving yourself, setting yourself up for that success, is only a springboard to what your work is and what you help people do, Chris. So I think it's very, very aligned.
Yeah. We have a phrase in our company, and the phrase is expression to equity. So we believe that we have the biggest impact on the world when we're a full expression of who we're called here to be.
Okay.
So express yourself through your work, express yourself through your creativity. Don't apologize for it. You know what I mean? It's like when we show up fully and we're fully expressed, that's tapping into the divinity of which we're created. You see what I mean? It's like God, spirit, universe, whatever you believe, we're created this way for a reason. It's divine. And when we're fully self-expressed, that is the expression of the divinity, in my opinion. It's the expression of that divinity within us that will bring us the largest impact on the world, the highest level of compensation. And it ends up being like super, super, super authentic. And it's like when you're bringing that, people around you, people will come to you because hey, you know what? I want to be like that. People want to be more unapologetic. People want to be more self-expressed. And when somebody's demonstrating that, I think it can be really, really powerful.
Think about dynamite blown through a mountainside, or to build way for a road. Some things have to be exploded for that road to be carved into the side of a mountain. And the people who are doing that work at the forefront, sometimes they're blowing things up. Sometimes they're dying on the line trying to clear the way. But when that pathway is made, people can flow through it really freely. And I think what you're talking about, I get really, because I'm creative and my brain goes into like a full motion picture as you're talking of that. I'm seeing that like channel carved and that path.
Yeah.
Someone's showing themselves. Not only is it drawing people to you, but you're like you said, you're fully expressed. People can just like think about even a canal being dug and water flowing through a channel. When you dig that, like water's going to seek and flow and things are going to move better, not just for you, but everything around it. I love that. And I think how could that have a negative outcome, even if it's different than what other people think? Tell me what could be negative about being fully expressed and about magnetizing exactly what belongs to you? What's the downside? What are we afraid of?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're afraid of our light, right? I mean, we're not afraid of our darkness. We're afraid of our light. And it's like, I think that's what it is. And I also think it's incredibly scary and vulnerable for people to show like fully who they are. You know what I mean? It's like when I'm talking with a person that I feel like if I see they're in this this type of business over here. And then through conversation, I realized maybe they should be in this type of business over here because it's so much more who they are and so much more, aligned with what their mission seems to be. There's a lot of fear around going into that thing that's directly aligned with your mission. The reason that there's a lot of fear is because it represents you like so much that it'd be so much more painful if people didn't accept that. So they'd rather not take the risk because it's too scary for them. But it's on the other side of that risk. That's where all the gold is. Because some of you that are listening to this, you might be in X career and have a desire to go try Y career over here because it's so much more aligned with who you are. But that's absolutely horrifying because of how unfamiliar it is and how deeply you connect with it. So if people are saying no to it, it's a lot more personal. So it ends up being pretty darn scary.
I that resonates deeply with me. And I think it could be the similar thing with parenting a certain way, with showing up as a friend in your community a certain way, in any kind of relationship, whether it's friend, professional, or romantic. When you show up really as you are, you give space for people to love and connect with you fully, 100%. And you also make room to be absolutely, completely decimated.
Yeah. And yeah.
Tremendous risk of exposure. But even as you're saying how scary that is, at the same time, as loud as I can hear in my head, how much more scary is it to live completely away from your unrealized potential, completely in hiding? If I stay hiding the whole time, this is so random, but I went and did airsoft with my son. He loved it a couple years ago. It's like a pellet gun war thing. I don't know. It's like paintball, but it's painful. It's terrible. I tried to be a nice mom. I learned my lesson. I'll never do it again. But the point is, I went out there and I was brave and I wanted to try it with him. And I was geared up. It hurt so bad. I thought I thought they were for sure real bullets. And so do you know how I played the rest of the rounds with my son? Hiding in one corner the whole time. Did I get shot at? No. Did I get any points though? No. But I stayed back here and I didn't get shot at. And so I'm thinking, yeah, did I really have fun playing airsoft with my son? No, I might as well have just stayed at home. Don't even show up to the game. You know what I mean? But when I risk getting hurt, when you risk your idea, your brand, your messaging, your product being shut down, it's so devastating. But how much worse is it to risk never bringing that to market? How much?
Yeah, I can't even.
Is inside of you.
I remember one of the pivotal moments for me was I used to sell payroll services back in the day, and we're selling payroll for 10, 12 years. I was a top sales rep. I had an income approaching 200,000, and this was 18 years ago. And I remember I was contemplating opening a business, and I went online and I was looking for some motivation. And I pulled up this speaker, and his name is Les Brown. Mm-hmm. If you haven't heard of Les Brown, Google Les Brown. You can't help but be inspired watching this man work. He's one of the best in the world. And he gave this analogy. He said, the richest places in the world are not the oil refineries. They're not the gold mines. The richest place in the world is the graveyard, because that's where most people take their goals, dreams, and aspirations. They take them to the graveyard. And then he went on to say, he said, imagine you're on your deathbed and there's a spirit standing around the bed for each one of your unfulfilled goals and unfulfilled dreams. And those spirits are looking down on you and they're saying, we came to you to bring us life, but because you didn't trust yourself and because you weren't courageous enough, now we must die with you. And I just remember that going, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. I'm not willing to die with my goals, my dreams, and my aspirations still sitting in me because I wasn't courageous enough to step forward. And when you're stepping forward, the things that we've talked about during this conversation, that win or learn mentality is just so dang pivotal. You have to have that mentality where you have to be willing to try things, you have to be willing to fail, and then you have to be willing to correct, continue, and be grateful for the lessons you're learning along the way. And it sounds maybe a little bit cliche, but I do see it as a huge difference between those that are extraordinarily successful and those that struggle. So like I just can't imagine for me being that person that won't step to the plate. That's just not who I am. And I hope somebody who heard that story can actually think about, hey, is that me right now? Am I going to end up like that? Am I going to be the guy or the gal that's on his deathbed and it's going to be wishing and looking and going, geez, I wish I tried this. I wish I tried this. I wish I'd done this. It's a really freaking powerful visualization. And it was that moment. And I should have put that on the sheet for the podcast entry, because you said, what was a pivotal moment that really drove you in entrepreneurship that caused you to take your current direction or something like that. And that was the moment. It was hearing that and going, I can't live like that. I have to try this. And that was when I left the payroll sales. And that's when I started my consulting company. And that was 2008. And here we are, 2025, multi 7-figure brand. But again, that happened because I think I've been willing to fail more than most.
Yeah.
Because that's where I learn. I learned from my failures. I learned from getting it wrong. When I think about things like when you're doing coaching and consulting, one of the common ways to generate revenue is from stage. We get speaking gigs, we get opportunities to speak in front of large groups. Sometimes we make an offer at the end. And it's like, I've had so many times where I've gotten up in front of large rooms and I've sold absolutely nothing. And that's what has allowed me to get up now in front of large rooms, do multi-day training events and sell, $700, $800, $900,000 worth of services. The reason I know how to do that is because of how many times I did it wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the dang truth. But I had gratitude for every single lesson I learned. And every time I learned a lesson, I've shifted my behavior until I honed my craft and got it right. And that's available for every single person. The lessons that we need are the lessons that are showing up in our experience. They're showing up there for a reason. It doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter if it's a ball of roses right now or if it's a total freaking train wreck. If it's a train wreck right now, that's being created so that you can learn the things that you need to learn to hit your next level. So instead of beating yourself up for it, be grateful for that. Grab out of those lessons and shift your behavior and move forward.
And I think the real distinction is, rather than wallowing in it, rather than shutting it down and denying it, what you're talking about is taking some thoughtful time to really mine it for what value is in it, rather than beating yourself up for the failure or being afraid of it and skipping over it. Because a lot of times it's like, well, if we don't talk about this, nobody will know. And I don't have to actually feel all the things that come with it, which we've talked about at length during our discussion together. So, really just taking time to evaluate what is in that. And I think that pause, that reflection, and that time is the step that can't be missed, or those opportunities that come from the obstacles don't ever really congeal or click. I think this has been so poignant and so powerful. I'm curious if there's a way that we can link that. Is Les Brown the name of the person who you're looking for inspiration, and bada bing, bada boom, 2008, that's what hit you upside the head? Is there a way that we can link that? I know that you said you didn't fill that out as your pivotal moment, but I think that might be nice to include here so that those who are listening will be able to.
I think I could probably find that clip on YouTube somewhere.
Okay.
Where he talks about the spirits and he talks about, tells that story. And if I can find it, it'd be really cool to link that speech, right to this recording because it was so damn powerful for me. So I'd have to look for it because it was a very, very long time ago, but I'm sure it's out
we
there.
can look for it too. My team can help and then see if it's the right one. But I think that's really, really impactful. We have not discussed anything about the high ticket advantage, which is something that you help entrepreneurs really understand how to position themselves with. Your partner, Julie, who's really
Yeah.
the brilliant voice behind marketing and branding and putting these together. She was supposed to be on today and she was unable to join us due to some things that came up for her. But I think it would be lovely if you're open to it to join us another time where we can take a deeper dive into some of those concepts. But the truth is, I don't think without an understanding of what we discussed today, that those offerings and those concepts will have the same impact. I think that this is a foundation and a groundwork for something really remarkable with what you have to share. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah, 100%. And I think everything happens for a reason. Everything's divine in nature. This creation is a divine creation. We're here today. It's you and I. That must have been how it was supposed to be for today. And then we'll just set something else up and bring Julie in because Julie's a wonderful marketing mind. She's a beautiful, she's great with marketing. She's great with messaging. She's great with positioning. That is her concept that she created called the high ticket advantage. And basically high ticket advantage refers to what is it that makes you different? What is it that separates you? What's your value proposition is, and why is it different than everybody else? And making sure that that is actually being reflected in your marketing and communicated through your marketing. Because sometimes people can know what that thing is for themselves, but it's not being reflected in the marketing. And that's her genius, is pulling that thing out and then making sure it's in the marketing as well.
And then your brilliance is in leading people to the breakthroughs, understanding how to price, and kind of the brass tacks of it. And I think to have you both on together would be such a delight. So this is part one officially. Julie,
Great.
You could get out of it. This is part one of two, and I will air them back to back so that our listeners can really understand the full breadth of what you do. And this background story will give them a platform and an understanding to how they can step into that next piece, which I think doesn't seem like you can have one without the other.
100% true. 100%.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us today, Chris, and for opening up about that. I think your little surprise takeaway was, I think it's kind of cool. It's a quirky thing to be like, yeah, I'm a world-class juggler and I was a well-known performer in the New York street performer scene. I'm like, okay, wasn't waiting for that. And there's just some fun there. And honestly, you didn't go into depth about what you experienced in your childhood, but you did really talk about how that was a catalyst for you looking for something better. And I think that is also really empowering to hear for so many people to understand that where you're at, it could look pretty impressive, clean, and a beautiful package. If you're not looking at this and you're just listening, Chris Kenny is a beautifully well put together, well-dressed, well-groomed gentleman. But the idea is really what went into that and the thoughtfulness. And so thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up. And thanks for spending some time.
We have an opportunity to stand on our story or stand in it. So standing in your story basically means, hey, I'm going to blame where I come from. I'm going to blame my past. I'm going to blame my parents. I'm going to blame all the dysfunction that took place. Or you can stand on your story and you can stand on it and say, I'm going to perform and I'm going to be a top level individual and contributor in this world in spite of where I come from. And I think we all have a choice to make. It's a decision. And I chose to be well and do well in spite of where I come from. And that's a lot of who I am.
Thank you for the invitation, Chris. And for everybody listening, I hope that you'll do a little deep reflection and thought on some of the opportunities you've had presented to you due to pain or failings, and to consider maybe a little bit whether or not we're able to listen to that incredible clip with Les Brown, but to consider what gifts and brilliance are within you, your divine and sacred mission and work that is waiting to come forth, and that fear might be getting in the way of. So this is an invitation from Chris and me. I'm inviting people based on what you've shared to think about this and to take time to reflect on what that might look like and what fear has been standing in the way of, and to face it. Thank you so much. And I cannot wait for part two with Julie.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We'll see y'all soon.
Thanks.